All right. Welcome to my humble abode. Some people in the comment section of my last video that almost made it seem like that they really believe that I am recording live in my new home with money that I've made from YouTube. So let me dispel the rumor right now. Can you do this in a home? Look at the remix. Dun, 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 dun. Can you do this? Whoa, look at the house, baby. You can't do this in your new home, all right? So let's stop playing around. This isn't a real home. It is a fake me out green screen. All right. Let's have one more thing about Satan. Now, the other day I made a video called Was Satan at the Grammys? And I appreciate the different comments on the video and the people who got to me privately. Some people either texted me or hit me on Facebook Messenger and just thanking me for that particular, the content of that video, because there's so much outrage. And essentially, if you watched the video, then you heard the question. I asked this question: should believers be outraged at the sin of the world? Was kind of the question that I was speaking to. And the reason why I wanted to just add one more thought to this perspective as it relates to Satan, the world, all this stuff. The reason why I thought it would be helpful to add this thought, and then one more thought, is because the perspective of believers who are outraged and who have public platforms like YouTube and so forth, that perspective is in many ways large. Like it's a large, there is, for whatever reason, there are professing believers in Christianity who believe that their outrage and their call out Christian culture is what honors the Lord, despite the fact that Jesus never did that. The only people that did that in the New Testament were the Pharisees and scribes in them and Sadducees, except when Jesus flipped over tables for them doing that. So I just thought to add one more perspective to what I said the other day about Satanism, his role in this country, what we see happening, our disagreements with the sexual acronym community, and a bunch of different things, right? I think there's one thing that all believers, but particularly believers in America, I think we need to remember one thing as it relates to Satan and just the unrighteous, what we would call unrighteous, or to use Sam Smith's and Kim Petras' song of their title, their song, Unholy, right? So if we take the unholiness that we see, and for whatever reason, we think that the unholiness that we see should provoke an outrage that we call out, and that somehow proves that we are not like the world. I think it's just a form of cancel culture that makes us like the world. But I'm going to reread a passage that I did the 2 days ago. I did the video, but a couple verses earlier than where I read, because this is, if there's one thing, if I were to say to all believers, what's one thing that we need to consider when we're talking about the culture that we live in and what seems to be the growing debauchery, anti-Christian, I think I put Christian in quotation marks because I don't know if looking at America's history, if you can say with a clear conscience that America has demonstrated Christianity. America has preached and proclaimed Christianity. But Jesus said, if you love me, obey my commandments, not go out there and preach the gospel, right? He said, if you love me, obey my commandments. Christian is quotation, all right? But let me read this verse. I think this is one thing that all believers have to remember when you're living in a culture, or like particularly ours, the sentiment is growing in unholiness, right? Christ-like nature. Here's what the verse says. Here's what it says. 2 Peter 2, going back to this. This will be quick today, I promise. If by turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah to ashes, he condemned them to extinction, making them an example of what is going to happen to the ungodly, and if he rescued righteous Lot, greatly distressed by the sensual conduct of the wicked, right? Then it says this, for as that righteous man lived among them day after day, he was tormenting his righteous soul over their lawless deeds that he saw and heard. Then the Lord knows how to rescue the godly from trials and to keep the unrighteous under punishment until the day of judgment. If I were to say one thing to believers, particularly in America, who are so outraged at the culture they live in, I need to call this out and all this stuff. If such and such becomes president, I'm leaving, all this type of things. This passage is what more believers, we need to be more like this. I love that he said this, listen. And if he rescued righteous Lot, greatly distressed by the sensual conduct of the wicked, right? Now, let's keep in mind the story of Lot, right? We would know Lot from Genesis 19, Sodom and Gomorrah. We know this. We know this about Lot. We know what was happening in the culture that day. But we also know that when God said he's going to judge Sodom and Gomorrah, he told Lot to flee. The angels, right, told Lot to flee. And Lot was like, man, but what are we going to do? And he said, look, there's a city not far from here. Go there. All right. And then Lot's wife looks back and becomes a pillar of salt. Right. So when God said be the salt of the earth, he wasn't talking about that salt. Right. He wasn't talking about looking back. Right. Here's the thing that we have to think about this. Lot lived next to another city and could have easily left Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, I don't know what that city was like, but it clearly was more palatable for Lot and his family because God wasn't destroying Sodom and Gomorrah and sparing a city who's doing the exact same thing, right? So when they told Lot to flee and go to the neighboring city, Lot could have went to that city a long time ago. I mean, this verse is telling us, look, he was greatly distressed by the sensual conduct of the wicked. And this is what it says in a parenthetical statement in verse 8 of 2 Peter 2. For as that righteous man lived among them day after day, he was tormenting his righteous soul over their lawless deeds that he saw and heard. Listen to what it's saying. Lot was tormenting himself watching their lawless deeds. He could have left and went to whatever city he went to when they told him we're going to destroy the city, get out of here. Now, we don't know why he didn't. We just know from here that Lot was staying there, tormenting his soul righteously, right? So what does this mean for believers, particularly us in America? It means that we need to stop being outraged and acting as if the unrighteousness that is tormenting our souls in our city, that we need to be afraid of it or worried about what's going to happen, right? Lot had kids too. And it doesn't, from the narrative of Genesis 19, it doesn't seem like Lot's kids were daughters, they were virgins, apparently. It doesn't seem like they were living in an unrighteous city filled with sensual conduct, right? What I'm trying to say is this. Listen, brothers and sisters, we need to be more like Lot. We need to be more like Lot. Like, God knows that we live in a culture that is increasingly hostile and wicked. And many of us are going to be tormented to some degree. Lot could have left. I don't think he was calling stuff out. We know that the people knew Lot because when the men came and said, Lot, let those men out of your house, they knew him by name. They knew who he was. Lot was in the community, but he was tormented. He was a godly dude, but he understood, or at least believed at that moment, I got to live here for whatever reason. My family is here. I got children I'm raising in an unrighteous community. And it said that God was able to preserve Lot. Lot wasn't overwhelmed. He wasn't overtaken. His children were not in an unrighteous community. I don't think Lot was calling out the sinfulness. Now, again, I'm not saying we should tolerate or accept. I absolutely do not. But what we shouldn't do is be so outraged or so acting like, listen, if your soul is tormented, praise God that you have a conscience against the things that don't please him. But again, we need to be more like Lot, a lot, right? And not like the Christian call out community who defines their maturity by highlighting and making YouTube videos about everyone else's sin. It's like, look, fam, I accept the fact that the world belongs to the devil and that people are going to act devilish, satanic, and I don't like it. I do my best to train my children, to give them categories, and then we keep moving. We keep moving. We got to persevere to the end. So again, I think a lot of us, we listen to these people. They get so, oh my gosh, look at what they're doing. But they got to do it. If they got a YouTube, you got to do stuff with algorithms and clicks, man. You got AdSense. We want to make money off of you watching our videos, working through the commercials so that we can get paid by YouTube for hosting it. I mean, it is what it is. But don't understand what's happening here. Even these politicians tweeting, they're trying to ruin our country. But our country is in comparison to other countries, America is the greatest country in the world. In comparison to the scriptures, America is hell. It's not more God glorifying, and God is not sitting there like, man, I'm so glad I established America. It's some wicked folks in our country, and some of them profess to be believers. In the immortal worlds of Public Enemy, don't believe the hype. Don't believe this stuff, y'all. It's possible for you. Right? He rescued Lot, righteous Lot, distressed by the sensual conduct. For he lived among them day after day. Some of us are going to live in communities where it's just crazy and it's unrighteous. We don't have the luxury to move, and we can't just pull our kids and tuck them away so that nothing happens to them. We have to trust that the Lord knows how to rescue the godly from trials. Stay focused, stay the course. The Lord is with you. If he saw Lot in an unrighteous situation, he sees us. He knows that we don't approve of it, but this is where we live and what we have to do. We don't need to call out everything, and we don't need to be outraged at everything. Let the Lord handle what he handles. Let's you and I try to stay focused on being holy, being righteous, and persevering to the end. All right? Cross-Examine coming to y'all live at 7:30. Me and Strat going to talk about a few things. So make sure y'all tune in live at 7:30. Look forward to seeing y'all there. Appreciate y'all for supporting the channel. You know what I'm saying? All that. Appreciate everybody that watches, all that. But y'all know what some of y'all do. Some of y'all do. You know it. Some of y'all know what you do. You watch, you don't hit the like button, don't subscribe, no nothing. Look out for us. Look out for us. All right? Grace and peace, y'all.